One of the things that is the most depressing is how we have fallen as a nation in the caliber of our leadership. And I think about Thomas Jefferson, a brilliant man that wrote the Constitution. His IQ was off the charts. And then I think of now, Joe Biden. And Joe is getting into dementia. He's a very angry man, and he threatened the American people again. He has a history of this with using the military on the American civilians. This is the mindset that the government has now, that they are separate from us. There's us, and they consider us evil and dangerous, and then they have them in their walled palaces, and there are rightful rulers. This is how they see it. And there's an example of this. Biden gave a address, and let's take a look at this. It's real short. And of course he botched it like he botches everything. But it's interesting.
And by the way, if they want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about.
All right. Well, we should be the government, Joe Biden, right? This is how the American system was set up, is there's not really a distinction between the government and the people. It is the government by the people. But that would be considered heresy now, maybe Nazism. And no. They have the government that's above us, and we're serfs. We submit to the government. This is how the current regime looks at it. So it's very instructive, just the language of them, meaning the American people, and us. And like if we get out of line, they're threatening us. How dare they?
Well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle. Folks, look, this is crazy what we're talking about.
All right. So again, what he was doing here is basically saying that you don't have a right to the Second Amendment like the founders thought, because it's not going to do you any good anyway, because how can a rifle defend you against us? And notice how he has the terminology, us, meaning the government, the leaders, the elite, and you guys, the dirt people, the heritage Americans. This is how he sees it. And he goes, you better not get uppity, because even if you do have a rifle, it's not going to save you. We have an F-15. You better get an F-15 to fight us, because we're going to blow the shit out of you with F-15s. That's what he's implying. It's ridiculous. I mean, he should be impeached alone on these statements. But this is his mindset. He doesn't have much of a mind anymore. But this shows the people around him, what they're feeding him, how he looks at everything, and how he feels threatened by Americans. And it's interesting how he makes a point about a rifle's not going to do any good. But at the same time, January 6th, in which no one had any weapons, was an insurrection that almost overthrew the government. All right, so a bunch of people with cell phones and no weapons almost overthrew the government. Okay, but somehow, but rifles won't do you any good. You need a F-15. Well, obviously, this is really stupid. Even back in the day of the founding fathers, they understood the populace with rifles was going to take on a huge army with warships and sophisticated cannons and all of that. They understood that. But they also understood that if people have weapons, it's dangerous for the government because the people have the power. And while they may not be able to take down an F-15, a person with a rifle can take down certain targets that are, eating in their little deli, and boom, that can happen. No, I'm not advocating that, but it can happen. That's how guerrilla wars work. And there's many examples. I mean, Vietnam, we had superior weapons, but they won because this is where they were, and they were able to fight. Afghanistan, the same idea. So this idea that weapons have no value, of course, is absurd, because if they thought weapons had no value, they really wouldn't be pushing to take your guns. And it's instructive how he looks at this as the primary reason for guns is to prevent against the tyranny, which is true. And one of the things Biden, because Biden's senile and he can't say just basic quotes. He was trying to quote Thomas Jefferson. All right. And Thomas Jefferson, again, wrote most of the Constitution. And Biden said, and I'm quoting him, "How much have you heard the phrase, the blood of liberty washes those, give me a break," Biden said in a mocking tone. I've never heard that phrase, Biden, because it's stupid. It doesn't even make sense. What the hell? He can't even quote Thomas Jefferson, a famous phrase. Thomas Jefferson, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." What Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of this country, was saying is, if you're going to secure your liberty, sometimes it requires violence. That's just the nature of the world. And sadly, sometimes that's going to require your blood, or hopefully the blood of the tyrants too, to make them understand and to respect your rights. That's what Thomas Jefferson was saying. But Joe Biden's saying, have you heard this phrase, the blood of liberty? Well, number one, Joe Biden, it doesn't make sense because liberty doesn't have blood, idiot. Washes those, and then he just totally forgot. So, give me a break. He can't even say basic things right. But if we're gonna use quotes about the Second Amendment, I'm besides Thomas Jefferson, the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants, a famous quote of Thomas Jefferson. Let's do some more Thomas Jefferson quotes, Joe Biden. This was in the Virginia Constitution, 1776. "No free man shall ever debarred the use of arms." Then Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to James Madison, "What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms." So Jefferson is saying people need to have weapons to take power, to control their leaders, to make sure their leaders respect them. Thomas Jefferson, again, the Constitution of most of our states and of the United States assert that all power is inherent in the people. All right, this is how Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers, right or wrong, looked at it, that this is a nation of the people. So you don't have them, the government, that rule over us, and we better know our place. And, we can't give you power because we'll kill you with F-15s. No, it's like, no, we have the power. That's what Thomas Jefferson was saying. And then he goes on to say that they may exercise it by themselves. That is the right and duty to be armed at all times. So Jefferson was saying, in order to preserve our freedom, the citizens, they not only have the right, they have the duty to be armed. So Thomas Jefferson would go as far to say, not only do you have a right to a rifle, it's your really duty to own a rifle to help fight against tyranny and a tyrannical government. Again, if you don't want to, I could go doing these quotes all day. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. "Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it," meaning nothing's going to preserve liberty, "but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are ruined." So he said, if you give up your guns, you are ruined. "The great object is that every man must be armed. Everyone who is able might have a gun." And this whole gun control is not really new, because before there were even guns in Europe, what they understood, the founding fathers, the peasants weren't allowed to own like crossbows or swords because the rulers were scared of the peasants. They were scared of the peasants' rebellion of having arms. In the same way, this corrupt government in Washington is terrified of us having weapons. They want to disarm us because they understand that we are a threat, and we don't need F-15s. We can secure our liberty even though we don't have an F-15. And they know that. They know this. This is why they're doing an attack. And they consider themselves different than us. They consider themselves a separate class of people. They rule over us, and they want to keep us down. And this is where we've come from. Thomas Jefferson then would have never said something like, we need to take your guns away, or in case you don't like us, you better watch out, you better need a warship. He would have never said that because he considered himself to be the man of the people. Whereas Biden and the regime, they don't consider themselves even to be Americans. They're separate. They're part of this globalist class, and they're fearful of armed Americans. Talk to you guys later.